Hey everyone, it's Dan Sfera from dansfera.com. Welcome back. This is where we discuss entrepreneurship and business every day. Today I have Dean Sukaras. He's an entrepreneur, founder of CitiRenter.com. And I'll let Dean explain a little bit about what that is, but essentially you can find apartments in New York City, right?
That's right. Yep. And Dan, thank you for having me on your show.
No problem. So let's get right into it. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Who you are, Dean, how you got started in entrepreneurship, and try to answer this question if you can, because I try to ask everybody. Do you think you were born an entrepreneur, or were you made an entrepreneur?
I definitely think that I was born an entrepreneur, and the reason I say that is because all my family has been in entrepreneurship. So my mom and dad, they came from Greece. I'm first generation. And they came here to the United States, and they ended up starting their own business, and they ran that business for about 30 years. So it wasn't a Greek diner, but it was something else.
Okay.
But it was in their blood, and I think that passed on to me. You know what? Everybody talks about being your own boss, making your own rules, making your own hours. I just couldn't imagine working for somebody else.
Yeah.
No,
have you ever worked for someone else?
You know what? I have in college, just some college jobs. After I had gone to law school, I graduated from law school and I practiced law for about 6 months. And then I just decided, you know what, now's the time for me to try what I was really passionate about, was to start a business. So I left that and started a computer company where we were selling computer parts over the internet. This is going back to 1999.
Okay.
And I had that company for about 10 years. Really did well. We had 2 offices in New York, California, about 50 employees, got up to about 38 million in sales. So it was really doing well. And then, some of the things changed where the recession came in. A lot of products was being manufactured out of China, and the profit margins were really squeezed tight, extra competition.
Mm-hmm.
It just didn't make sense to keep the company going, so we ended up closing that company. But just to go back to your original question, yes, I think I was born an entrepreneur, but I do have siblings, brothers and sisters who did not, who just went to go get jobs.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, I don't know how it works, but I was born into entrepreneurship, but they missed that gene somehow, which for better or for worse, I got the bug.
Yeah, actually, I find that interesting because I wrote an article about that on the Under 30 CEO blog. I don't know if you're familiar with that one. It's a good blog, by the way.
Check it out.
Yeah, they were having a debate, are entrepreneurs made or born? And I argue that they're made, but you have to be born with certain minimums, I guess. Like you have to be, you have to have somewhat of an intelligence, and you have to have been lucky, I guess, as far as, maybe your parents starting you off the right way. But ultimately, I think they're made. But it's always interesting to get entrepreneurs' thoughts on that question.
Yeah, it's a good question. I like it, and it's a good point. I'd love to hear what other entrepreneurs have to say as well.
Yeah. Now, your first company, the one that you started in '99, where you were selling computer parts, that actually lasted 10 years.
Yeah, it lasted till 2009, before we shut the doors down, and I started my next phase, my next life. But yeah, 10 years. It was a good chunk of time. I had a lot of fun doing it. Learned a lot. It's not like I went to business school and learned these things, and most entrepreneurs, they're not going to business school. It's kind of just following your passion and doing what you like.
Right. Now, you were able to survive the tech bubble, because you started that one in '99, and I would assume it shut down around 2009. So by most accounts, that would be considered a success story. But in your case, you said, you know what, let's just shut this down and start, was it CitiRenter?
Yeah, it's a completely different concept. And I did, after I graduated from law school, in New York, it's kind of an interesting thing because all New York lawyers are automatically real estate brokers. So after I graduated, I was a real estate attorney and I was a real estate broker for a short period of time, but it kind of introduced me to that market. And then after I closed down Computer Giants, which was the name of the company, then we decided to, well, I decided because I had partners at that time, but I was doing this on my own. to give real estate a try, and it was interesting. But of course, I was trying to do it the traditional way, more just real estate brokerage. But I had the tech bug, the internet bug, and so I was like, you know what, this can be done so much better if we can only apply some technology. And you'd be surprised how old world New York real estate is still run with basically paper and pen.
Right.
Some of the concepts now are starting to come about. Like you have websites in New York like Naked Apartments and RentHop, which CitiRenter is kind of getting into that, but it's kind of introducing it in a different way. It wasn't just about finding your apartment and never coming back to the website. It was about finding your apartment, staying on the website, learning about your neighborhood, checking out the local hotspots, networking with people in your neighborhood. So I wanted it to be a very neighborhood-focused concept, which New York is it's technically made up of about 200 neighborhoods, but we've got about 80 vibrant neighborhoods, I would say, with young people.
So now, when you started this in 2009, I guess you saw the need, that the way to search for real estate and for apartments in New York was a little old-fashioned. You'd have to call an agent. They'd have to show you around the parts of town that they thought were good for you. But people didn't really have freedoms to kind of look at everything. And is that what kind of inspired you to create that site?
Well, it inspired me on both ends because I saw it from both ends. Not only did I see it from the renter's end, but I saw it from the broker's end. And really the best game in town for a real estate agent is Craigslist. You put an ad on Craigslist. Now, what a lot of people don't know, in New York City, as an agent, it's going to cost you $10 for every ad you put up. And by the time you put up one ad, you spend $10 for one morning, and in a matter of an hour, your ad's gone. It's basically buried. There's 30,000 real estate agents and brokers in New York City. So it's a lot of competition. So I was trying to create something that could be better for both sides, the renter and the agent, because that's the only way it's going to work.
Now, do you have agents that pay you a fee to list it, or is that free for them? How does that work?
So at this point, the way it's working, and the idea is still evolving. CitiRenter is still in beta mode. So originally, I was going to have listings. I was going to have the agents post their listings or take data feeds, and I ended up kind of scrapping that idea because it was labor intensive. Maintaining these feeds, like I was saying, New York City has hundreds of different real estate companies. I was finding that I was having to adjust the data feed to fit everybody individually. So I kind of scrapped that idea. And now I'm kind of more on a subscription basis where agents are signing up for one neighborhood to receive emails from renters looking to receive targeted listings in that one neighborhood only.
I see.
So instead of looking at lists, which I say it's a great way to look at pictures, it's a terrible way to find an apartment.
Yeah.
Now you're just saying. I'm kind of the middleman where I'm connecting the right agent to the right renter.
And it's kind of like that paradox, especially for these online companies. You need to find the agents, to subscribe, but they won't do it unless there's traffic, and you won't have traffic unless there's agents. So how did you solve that problem?
So I'm still solving that problem.
Okay.
But of course, like anything else, you got to prove your worth. And you want to build up this subscriber base, and they want to know that there's agents. So you always have to give away a trial run. And this is pretty common nowadays on the internet. You give away 30 days to prove yourself. If it works, great. If it doesn't, no harm done.
And I've interviewed a guy involved in social media and real estate on the show a few episodes back, and we were just fascinated. I mean, what he does is pretty simple. He kind of makes YouTube videos in the Phoenix area about real estate out there, and he was trying to educate other realtors to do the same for their neighborhoods. Are you seeing that in New York? Are you seeing any realtors actively using social media?
Not as much as they should be. It's certainly picking up steam and getting more popular. But real estate agents, they're busy people. And as I said, you would be surprised how much real estate is still done paper and pen in New York City.
Right.
And I don't know how it is in other parts of the country, but in New York, everybody still has forms. And so it's not really, it hasn't really made that jump yet to new technology. It's on the way. If I was still practicing as an agent, I would be on YouTube. I would have videos. I would have I would be all over social media. That being said, it does take a certain skill level and a certain comfortableness with social media, with the internet, with technology, and it's coming. It's just not here yet.
Mm-hmm. So now you've had CitiRenter since 2009, right?
I would really say the beta site only launched like 6 months ago.
Oh, okay.
The concept I've had since 2009.
Mm-hmm.
But I practiced for a couple of years just strictly more in the traditional real estate brokerage, real estate law side.
Okay.
Before I was just enticed back into the internet.
Right. And I guess that leads me to my next question. A lot of the entrepreneurs I meet, they're tech guys. They're people who are very technically savvy. I'm not one of those guys. I would need to hire people like that. What about you, Dean?
I'm not technically savvy. I'm not a programmer.
Okay.
I've learned a lot over the years. I'm good at more of a high-end organizational level, and that's the biggest thing for an entrepreneur to do is to know his strengths. And I look back at my experience, and I've done this recently to kind of weigh what's different this time than when I started my previous company in 1999. And so much depends on having the right team. And people think about entrepreneurs as these, lone individuals. And I think if you ask any successful entrepreneur, it's going to be, well, I had the right people around me. And it's so key. And I'm starting to build that team around me that I'm comfortable with and confident in. And one of them has to be a programmer because I don't do that. And just outsourcing programming for a concept like CitiRenter, it's just not really possible in the long term. Mm-hmm. And for me, I'm approaching venture capitalists and angel funding as well, and they want to know who's on your team. And the big part of that is going to be the programmer. So because I don't have that skill, I have to make sure that potential weakness is addressed in anytime I speak to a potential investor.
And so that person is on your team. They're not someone in India.
Right. Now, that's not to say I use India a lot, or I should say outsourcing a lot for certain things. Not necessarily for the programming, but for other data entry type stuff, absolutely. People, I hear pluses and minuses about it. Once again, if you find the right company, no matter where they are in the world, and they put out good work, why not use them?
Mm-hmm. Now, how many employees does CitiRenter have?
It's just made up of the founders, really people and people in my team right now. So we have about 5. 5,
okay, that's a good size. And you guys still have to get to profitability, right?
Right. We're still just at, I would even say we're kind of still pre-launch stage because we're still in beta.
Okay.
So, the goal is probably in the next 3 months to get to launch the official website and the official launch.
Okay, and you brought up the topic of angel investors and VCs. Did you just start that process? Was your last company angel backed or VC backed?
My last company was not, which I think is probably part of the reason why I'm not fully comfortable with the process because I've never done it before. But it is a different world nowadays, and for a concept like this, my previous company was more of the bootstrap, start in the basement, slowly build up, and that's what happened. And and it worked.
Old school.
Old school, yeah. This time it's different. This time I'm really looking for that to make that a big splash and really get the best bang for the buck. And I am going through the VC angel funding route this time.
Now, how grueling is it to deal with these VCs? I personally have not. I probably will in the near future. Is it true that they're just like vultures that just want to take everything you have?
You know what? It depends on who you're dealing with, like anything else. Some of the people that I've met and spoken with, it's all about the vibe. If you get a good vibe from them, and even within the groups, it's not a matter of you might be talking to somebody who's on a lower level, having no idea what the upper people are like until you get to meet them. So it's a process, and I'm still in that process, and I certainly have not mastered it, but I can definitely say there's some really good literature, good books out there that I recommend. One of them, I was just looking at the book, and it just coincidentally I have it on my desk, and I'll give a plug to Jason Mendelson and Brad Field. It's Venture Deals.
Oh, okay.
Fantastic book. It's gives you the ins and outs and all the technical parts about every document, all the terminology that you're going to find.
Yeah. I think I heard about that one from Mark Suster. I watched This Week in Venture Capital, and he was giving that book a shout out. It's actually on my list of books to read on my phone here.
As you can see, I'm still on the paper and paperbacks here, but it's really good reading, and I think anybody who's even going to attempt to try that, definitely study up so that you're more on par and on level, and you know the terminology that they're using.
Now, what do VCs look for? Since you've dealt with a few, let's just say you're starting out that process.
Right. So VCs, I mean, they want to look for an idea that they like, but they want to look for a team that they love. Because the old saying is a good team can take a so-so idea further than a bad team can take a great idea. So it's really just about they want to like you, they want to like your team, and have faith and confidence in you. Okay.
Well, good luck with that, Dean. And let's talk a little bit about the books that you wrote. You're an author as well.
I am an author. Yeah, it's kind of another passion of mine and writing. And I commute in the city, and I have about an hour commute each way every day. So part of that commute, I was just doing some writing. So I have about 3 books out right now. All of them are ebooks on Amazon. The one that you had picked up on and you saw was a children's book that I wrote maybe about a few months ago. It's called The Way Home. And the reason why I wrote that is my practice. I study Buddhism, Zen Buddhism, and there's these very famous pictures in Zen Buddhism called the ox herding pictures. And one of my favorite books as a kid was The Giving Tree. And I don't know if you've ever read it, but it's kind of like a children's book with a very deep meaning about sacrifice and loyalty. And I said, well, how cool would it be to do a children's book on the Zen concepts of these ox herding pictures? And so I kind of just transformed it and put them into a story that I think it's enjoyable on one level, but it has a deeper meaning behind it.
Very interesting concept. And are these self-published?
They're all self-published. I had them, collecting dust, so to speak, on my hard drive.
Yeah.
And I just didn't have the time to put into sending endless letters out to publishing companies. And I said, you know what? I'm a tech guy. Let me just put it out myself, see what happens, and see what I can do.
You'll be amazed. I wrote this 99-cent ebook on clinical trials. And on the same website, I give it away for free. But for the Kindle, it's 99 cents, and it's sold hundreds. And
wow, nice.
I mean, that thing, you'd be surprised. So it got me thinking, if you charge more, you can actually do pretty well for yourself just selling books.
You could. I mean, it becomes a job because like anything else, you have to do the promotion behind it and the marketing. But everything that I've read is said, keep it at 99 cents. Really try to just send out your name, put out your name there, send out the message. And I'm not looking to make money. I'm just looking to just put my work out there. And I didn't want people to even question, well, should I buy this? I mean, it's the price of a cup of coffee. I mean, really no thought process. Pick it up, and if you like it, great.
And not to get into religion too much, but I've also been reading a lot on Buddhism. I read No Death, No Fear. Of course, A New Earth. I noticed a lot of entrepreneurs are kind of starting to go that route with Buddhism, at least starting to follow some of the principles, especially Zen Buddhism. And
right.
Is it because we're so stressed out that we need like the complete opposite of that?
You know what? I think that part of it is trying to keep control of your emotions, because being an entrepreneur, having your own business is extremely stressful and emotional, and it's trying to keep a handle on that. And of course, with Zen Buddhism and Buddhism in general, it's all about there's no ego, there's no self. So in the end, nobody's really getting stressed. You're not getting stressed because number one, you don't exist, and number two, the emotions don't exist.
Right.
Now that sounds great, but when you're up at night worrying about the next deal or your business, it's all about just trying to come back to that. And a lot of people talk about successful entrepreneurship, and everybody looks at the successes, and And I think that what's missing in entrepreneurship today is really the kinship of, look, 80% of businesses fail. Most entrepreneurships are not going to reach that successful level. It's just about working through that and not giving up. And I think that's really where, if we wanted to look at, honestly, at entrepreneurship, it's about being honest with yourself and being honest with what you're trying to do, but also more important than anything, just keeping in contact with the people about you to kind of maintain that even keel. So that to me is what Buddhism is. It kind of keeps things grounded.
Yeah, for me too. I mean, the work-life balance, it seems so cliche and it seems unnecessary until you start experiencing heart palpitations and tingliness in your feet, and you say, hey, this might be a heart attack.
Right.
Time for me to just calm down and have a little mindfulness.
Right.
So I think that's important. Now,
absolutely.
For CitiRenter, do you work out of your home office, or do you guys have actual location that you all work out of?
Well, we work out of one office. We actually have a couple of startups going. We have CitiRenter, and we also have another company called Letters Marketing.
Oh, okay.
And we run them both out of the same office. So Letters Marketing is more of an internet marketing company. And it's kind of a strange name for an internet company, Letters Marketing. But we were kind of just focusing on individuals, professionals with letters after their name. So we saw this as a group that was being underserviced, whether it was knowledge, whether it was being uncomfortable with the internet. So lawyers, medical groups, accountants, people who are in the professional level, and helping them market themselves on the internet. So we saw that as kind of a niche market within internet marketing.
Interesting. And as we wrap up here, your goals for CitiRenter, I guess, for the next 5 years, what would be your goals?
Definitely my goal, I'll go the end of this year first, is just to be fully up and running by the end of this year in New York. Definitely expand nationally next year, and then go international, because certainly this concept can work in any major rental city in the world, really.
Mm-hmm. And is the VC thing, is that a requirement, or would you be able to bootstrap this one like you did your last company?
I could definitely bootstrap it. It wouldn't have the initial launch that I would like, but it's certainly possible, and that's the way it's going to go if the VC money doesn't pan out.
Mm-hmm. Well, Dean, thank you very much for your time today. I know a lot of our people watching, they may be thinking about venture capital, and they may be thinking about launching their own startups. And also, thank you for sharing a little bit about your previous company. Some may call it a failure. I wouldn't call it a failure. I mean, if it survived 10 years and it provided your lifestyle for 10 years, that's
right.
A victory in my book. So thank you for coming on, Dean, and we'll be sure to do a follow-up interview sometime later this year and see how CitiRenter is going.
I appreciate it, Dan. Really pleasure talking to you.
Thank you, Dean. And this is Dan Sfera from dansfera.com. Take care.